check, good. So I'm Max Ceron, Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, here with the CWB Group and Association, and we have a very interesting guest here today, a young company that's coming up in Western Canada, which is near and dear to my heart out here in the West. We got Dan DeBona from Banditos Incorporated. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this, Max. I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Well, it's awesome, and I got to say, I'm kind of jelly wherever you're sitting. This looks like, either you're on the eastern side of Alberta or the western side of BC, somewhere in there.
I'm in Kimberley. I'm in my home in Kimberley, British Columbia. We opened our third location, or we're in the process of actually renovating that facility right now in Cranbrook. So we had moved just a little ways down the road into Kimberley. My wife is, she likes the outdoors, so this is a good fit for us and our lifestyle, and I can't complain. I mean, with the exception of the wildlife getting into my trash here and there, it's all positive.
Well, if I had a background like yours, I don't know if I'd complain either, man. It looks beautiful. And let's start there. Dan, are you born in BC? Are you a BC kid?
I'm not. This is all new country for me. I would say I'd never been, really west of Fernie. Outside of a hockey bus in my life until, I started venturing out here. I was making some calls. I really wanted to start working out in this area. Obviously, as the business grows, you look at areas that are in dire need of some service. I targeted this one a long time ago as, the area I wanted to be and I wanted to live in. And there's lots of opportunity, if you will. I believe Cranbrook's slogan is mountains of opportunity. So, I took that and basically ran with it. I'm born and raised in Taber, Alberta, corn capital of Canada. And we have a shop. Our first shop was actually opened in 2014 there in Lethbridge. And then we did a second shop in Taber, Alberta, my hometown, and my business partner, Craig Bodner's hometown. And a number of the team members at Banditos is local to that community as well.
And I'm sure you hear this all the time, and don't hate me, man. Don't hate me. But are you friends with Nickelback?
I would love to be friends with Nickelback. Yeah,
they're rolling it. They got Ferraris, man.
Yeah, I always was puzzled over why people don't like Nickelback, because I'm like, what a success to come out of such a small area, be such a huge. Don't get me wrong, I can appreciate why people hate on them. They probably hate on those same people that hate on Nickelback are the same guys that are going to hate us for our name, Banditos Incorporated. But it's
yeah. Or if you hate the Spice Girls or people are going to hate, they're going to hate. But you know what? I'm with you, man. If you can come out of some rural town in Canada and end up being one of the biggest rock stars on the planet, I don't care if you like the music. You don't have to like the music, but at least give them props for the work they did. That's not easy, and not everyone can pull that off.
No, yeah, that's 100% true. Gord Downey and the Hip are huge. I collect their memorabilia myself. I can't say I'm going to collect Nickelback memorabilia anytime soon, but I would hate to. I'd be lying if I said I'm not proud of them. I'm proud of what they've accomplished, because you know what? Who didn't want to be a rock star growing up? And they're sitting where they're sitting, and I'm sitting where I'm sitting. So, they they did a pretty good job for what they had to work with.
Well, you just said before we started the show that you're going to be at Fabtech in Atlanta, and we'll get to that later in the show. But I'm going to tell you right now, when we're in Atlanta and we're sitting around having a beer, I'll introduce you to some cool dudes out there, good, cool people. Ask me about my adventure with Nickelback, because I have a story about Nickelback that goes way back. So, because I used to be in a heavy metal band when I was younger, we used to play and tour, and I got a good story. So it's not good. It's not meant for these airwaves. I'll tell you in person.
No problem. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man. So you're born in Tabor, Alberta, best corn in the world. People don't know about Tabor corn. And I mean, just rural, great vegetables, great farming community. It's a very
real powerhouse.
it's a real powerhouse community for agriculture in Alberta, probably the strongest area in Alberta for agriculture. And you're a kid growing up there. Tabor's not poor. It's not a poor part of the province. Like there's money, there's nice schools, the streets are nice, it's a nice town. I've been there a number of times. What did you do? What was your high school plan? What was your first like gig coming out of school?
Well, I was a bit of a lost soul, I think, as y'all are. I didn't have a definite plan. I grew up on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on a small farm, which isn't something the government makes very easy to take over nowadays. It's not something you can. The long and the short of it is, if you borrow land to buy off your parents, that land needs to be able to pay for itself.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have to sell it to you at fair market value. And then there's the whole capital gains thing. So it's basically it's very challenging to take over a family farm, especially one that is quite small.
Smaller,
yeah. So right when I was going to high school, Max, the boom was happening in the oil field. I mean, Renaissance moved into town. I mean, they were slamming holes in the ground left, right, and center. Back then there was a company called Norson that was kind of like they were the more polished dudes of the group. Renaissance was full of a bunch of cowboys. Like they blew up that area. There was, I mean, I don't even know how many crew trucks were in the heyday of Tabor, but at least 150 crew trucks. So when you're 16, 17 years old, that's appealing. These guys have seemed to got it going on, and
they're like cowboys. They're having fun. They're buying trucks. They're ripping around.
Yeah. They're not suffering, to say the least, and it didn't look like there was any end to it, to be honest with you. And so I got right into it, man. I went and applied. Like, I graduated young. Just I started school early, so just due to my birthday being in January, and so I graduated at 17 years old, which kind of blocked me from getting right into the patch right out of high school. So I went and banged nails for a few months, and I learned quickly how much I didn't have for a skill set with wood. So I really wanted to get into that operating gig and into the oil field, and so I applied at a couple different companies. I'll end up being fortunate enough to get a job offer from my brother-in-law to go drive oil tanker. And so this is at 17 years old. And so I said, okay, well, I guess I'll go get my class 1. So 3 days after my 18th birthday, I went and drove my test, and I got my class 1. And, a few days later, I was hauling oil down the highway. Yeah. And I chiseled away at enough people's ears that eventually I got an operating job doing, the oil field operating, just what I wanted to do. And it turns out it wasn't near as glamorous as I had painted in my head. Everybody wants to do the cool guy job until you realize, that winter is terrible, and that those men work for their living when it's important to keep production online. So I did that for a number of years. I worked my way up into a lead position with a company, and I was put in charge of a couple different plant expansions. I'm just trying to think back, probably like 26, 27 type thing.
Yeah.
I had a young family. I got married at 20 and 19. When you're straight hair back and you're just, everybody's doing it. And so we did it. Me and my best friend at the time. We decided her and I would go get married and start a family a few years later. And I think I was about 26, 27 when I got an opportunity to do these plant expansions. And it was a great experience for me, running crews and basically sticking to a budget.
Learning the business side of the gig. Yeah.
yeah, and no tradesman experience to speak of, but you're in charge of these intelligent men that are electricians, and I learned the art of speaking at many levels of being able to. I really appreciated the master electrician or the red seal welder, or the instrumentation tech that could
master of
dumb
their
it down for me.
craft. Yeah.
Yeah, that could dumb it down for a guy like me, in appreciation that I was really just trying to do my job, which at the end of the day was just stick to a timeline and a budget. So
Mm-hmm.
As that kind of went on, it got harder and harder to get equipment at those times, and we'll end up fixing up old equipment is
Yeah.
basically how it come. And in the same breath, we're fixing up old equipment, and then at another part of the company, you're getting rid of old equipment to basically metal farmers. And so that's where the spawn my first business basically is. I'm like, well, if you're just gonna throw the stuff away, I'll
Maybe there's a
take it.
point of moving it there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got into the metal fab side of the business. Is basically just trying to take used equipment and because you couldn't get the new equipment.
Yeah. Now,
And repurpose it.
when you're working with this company, like there's a gap there, between, you said, you're 19, 20, and I was a young parent too. Like by 24, I had two kids already. Like it was, I got married. I was 20, just turned 21. She was 19 when she got married, or when we got married. So I get the game. You're just flying. I like how you had like hair back. Like you're just approaching everything at 100 miles an hour. Like that's just the way you go, because you don't know what else to do. Like if I can't do it good, I can do it fast. Right? Like so.
Yeah, totally. And it's hard to, when you're going fast, it's hard to take advice from people.
That's right.
Because you're fully committed to the direction you're headed, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way for sure, but none of them with ill intention. So it's I've learned a lot. It was great to go through those, and they still go on to this day. Like you look around down in Texas right now, and they just can't get guys in that particular position, like of oil well operator, and they're bringing in my buddies from like Brooks, Alberta, Lethbridge, Tabor. They're flying them in to Texas to work 2 weeks at a time.
I was going to bring that point up because it's something interesting, because, during the boom, one of many booms, but this boom in our life, right? So many of my friends went to Alberta for work. Like all of my welder fabricator friends went to Alberta for work, and then the bottom fell out. And then it was a whole bunch of people being like, what the do I do now? Yeah. But many of them have caught on in the, Houston, Texas, or even now as oil starts coming back up, these, they may have not been in it in 10 years, but now these jobs are creeping back up, and Saskatchewan's got a bit of oil. I mean, not crazy, but enough to sustain some of the local economy. But those skills are still there, right?
Yeah, it's I envy the guys that are able to be resilient with that with their careers, and good on them, man. I mean, if you're able to keep it going and keep it familiar, it's not easy being on call and doing those sorts of jobs, and especially for an entire career length. But to travel to Texas and be away from the family, a lot of these guys have worked right out their back door. Like Tabor had literally thousands of oil wells. If you got called out, you weren't traveling much more than, on the high end, 35 minutes from home. So it's weird, I think, for them. It's like learning a whole new way to do
the same job,
if you will.
Yeah. So, as you were working your way up through the oil field gigs, you start off as a driver, then you start getting into like, the more of the operational side of it, and then finally into the expansion side of it, which is a very exciting part of a job. Expansion is always a neat challenges that are a part of expansion. Were you given any training during this time? Did you pick up any courses through your employer, or are you just like trial by fire the whole way?
Yeah, it's really, that's how it starts. Is you start off looking after crews, just basically filling out safe work permits and learning what exactly a crew is capable of doing and what different levels of crews there are, and they all look familiar in the 7-Eleven parking lot, but they all do very different things. So I think as an oil company, you just kind of look at it, and you groom your people and you quickly establish who can work with without conflict, and you just basically highlight those people. And I definitely went through training, Max, like you go up to Calgary, you go through different ground disturbance courses and all those sorts of things, and you sit through a safety meeting every month, and as painful as they are, you do pick a little bit up. And no formal courses or anything like that at that point anyhow, that would have really pertained to it. It was just you have pretty good guidelines, though. You have pretty strict rules to follow, and yeah, you can't really cowboy it at that point. I know back in the day, like when I was talking there, 96, 95, 96, 94 even, I graduated in 95. There was definitely some interesting things going on. I caught it right after that bubble, though. The brakes had come on. The board had caught up to these guys, and some structure was made.
Yeah, well, it was dangerous too. Like, I mean, people were dying. Like, I mean, a lot of carry stuff went on, and like I graduated in 93 and was welding by 94, 95. So I was out there, and it was like, in my life, I've witnessed 2 deaths on work sites. Like, I mean, that's not normal. Most people don't experience one ever. But there was a really ugly, hardcore time where there was just so much money, and businesses just needed, like, I was working for a mining company, but we got into the oil service business because you had to. Like, I mean, it was just literally everyone was all in, right? Like,
yeah, and for me, my motivation was to do, and no disrespect to these fellows, but my motivation was to stay off the service rigs. I pitied those guys. Like, they worked from 5 a.m. till 9 p.m. back then, and then travel all the way back to Brooks, from Tabor, and again the next day, and I was just like, oh my gosh, whatever I got to do to not do that, I'm gonna do.
So that's like when I did one winter outside doing construction, and with it was the boiler makers, and it was like, I didn't care how much the pay was. Like, I was like, I'm never doing that again. I don't like the cold. I'm a big baby when it comes to the cold, and making me be up 60 feet welding 2 bends on something in -30. I was like, I don't care how much this is. I'd rather work at 7-Eleven right now. Like, this is brutal. But there's people there that love it, right? There's people there that love it. Kudos. Run with it, man. Like,
yeah, totally. Well, it's we were saying before we started here how I tend to forget kind of important details. Throughout that, I had a 2-year period where I was so I'd quit working in Tabor and went out to the British block for Alberta Energy Company out in Suffield. And I don't know if you're very familiar with Suffield area, but
no,
you might as well go work overseas. It's completely controlled by the British military, and all your wells are underground, and it's, you can't see any of your wells, and there's tanks running. It's when you're a young man, it is a questionable experience. Back then, it's definitely totally probably a different experience now. But with that being said, I got a job opportunity to come back to Tabor. I was having trouble affording a house at that time. In Medicine Hat, just due to the boom and the fact that construction just couldn't keep up. I got a job opportunity to come back and work for Baker Petrolite at the time, and just be a service rep. So I did that for a little while, and the gentleman I was working for, Scott, he was a fantastic mentor for me. He quickly gave me some of my own accounts, and I helped, with his help, of course, grew that business up to the point where we were able to set. He approached me a year later and asked me if I'd start another location for Baker in Vulcan, Alberta, and just basically a satellite area. And so, that was the first time I packed my family up and moved to a new town, and we started this little. We rented a space basically off the transportation company. They put a desk right in their office with me, and we built a dock and loaded up with chemical, and away we go. But through that experience with Baker, they'd sent me down to Houston a number of times for different training, on just really the whole process of treating oil. And that the growth I got out of that, just maturity wise, when you're that hand, you're seeing everybody's oil batteries, and you're not seeing them when they're healthy. Typically,
Yeah.
you're being called because they can't treat the oil, and you're having to learn how to deal with many different personalities, and exactly how to go about
Being a
just getting them back
professional.
on. Yeah, basically, yeah, like being a 25-year-old professional. And Scott, he'd come from Saskatchewan, the good old boys club, and like I said, he wouldn't let me get rattled. But he taught me an important lesson I still keep to this day. Is he said, you never leave one person's location without you don't drive without talking to someone. And so that I've maintained that my whole career. Is I'm never not on my phone. I manage a lot of relationships through my phone, and it helps me keep pace with a lot of other companies that are basically guys that are sitting at desks able to do what they do.
It's interesting because now the pieces are starting to come together there. You get involved with the oil world as a young man, 17, 18 years old, driving, which is a process that there's limits and there's times and there's a process there. Then into operator, there's another process there. Then into sales and managing customers is a whole nother side of the business.
Sure.
And you're starting to see, and everything's going to lead back to where you are now. So you're starting to see these points where it's like the issues with the trucking and shipping and logistics, the issues with having the right equipment in locations for operations, the issues of getting equipment in to give to people when they need it at the right time. These are all these pieces starting to come together in your career that you're starting to figure out. At this point, is there a light yet being like, I wonder if I can start a business with what I've learned, or what else has happened? Like what other little pieces kind of maybe came into this puzzle?
Well, and again, it goes back to being able to manage straight chaos. It's you become myself. I think it might be a terrible habit. Like I get attached to the process. I find it to be the best part about it. It doesn't really I like the idea of thinking about building a building, or I like the idea of like rearranging the shelves and the process of it. And I think a lot of people, when it's done, they're satisfied. And for myself, I'm looking at the next opportunity to rearrange the shelves, or move on to the next project. And it's I used to be I really wanted to wait till exhale, and get some relief. It's going to be better when I get this new truck. I'm going to be able to do my job much better. Or when I get that lift kit, I'm going to be able to handle these roads better. Or I get whatever. And I realized that I was just chasing monotony around and around and around. So I started. It's probably the hardest thing I ever learned how to do was keep a journal, and write down. Basically write down what I want to do. And later on in life, I learned that that's called goal setting. Yeah. Exactly.
Literally my day every day, dude. It's a huge game changer.
And I'm trying. I got a 17-year-old son. His name's Vinny, and he's coming up, and he wants to be a tradesman, which is fantastic. But I just tell him it doesn't really matter what you do. There's two things that that I think are so important in business, and being relatable and being a people person is definitely one of them. But being able to manage and set realistic goals is crucial to the success of anything, really.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. So as far as it goes, I'm 25, 26 years old going into this. A number of failures. I think I've worked myself into about trading off vehicles too soon because they're miled out and I'm running too hard. I'm probably $20,000, reverse of what my vehicle's actually worth. I'm learning all of these lessons along the way. I've updated my same sort of things on even like holiday trailers and stuff like that. I'm learning all of these terrible habits. When you're going straight full send, just chasing that low lying fruit and it wasn't beneficial for me.
Yeah, well, the low-lying fruit's the one that goes rotten first, right? So,
Yeah, sir.
so at this point, 27, is this kind of like you said you had a couple of like mistakes, business disasters you called them. So like did you try starting up a shop, or did you try a business that didn't work out, or well, or did you just kind of slide into Banditos and it was this is
No,
it. This
no.
is what I'm rolling with, like.
No, yeah. So when I started operating, I operated as a contractor. So that was my first. So at 19 years old was my first experience of setting up a company. And
Okay, yeah.
at the time I was a proprietorship, and so I wasn't a limited company or anything like that. And then, a year or two went by, and I ended up becoming a limited company and splitting incomes with my wife and those sorts of things. So I kind of learned that. But yeah, at 27, 28, somewhere in there, I started. How I actually started was is selling used equipment. So buying it and selling it
Right.
to people that were in desperate need of equipment,
Mm-hmm.
in the oil field. And then I found out that there's actually even a business there. There's a business for me to take it to my guys. These guys that are working in Tabor, and set up a little shop and basically take used equipment, refurb it, sandblast, paint it, repressure test it all, redo all the instrumentation and get it back out to work. And so through there, I did my B31.3 and all sorts of things. In relative to, I learned a lot. I learned that code books are very expensive. I had about $15,000 of them,
Yeah.
and just it was a huge growth curve, because
Yeah.
you go from selling things and it being relatively easy and problem free, and then you're like, I can make a lot of money with this one if I just put some paint on it.
Yeah.
But it's never that easy. And I think a lot of people that flip houses run into that. They're like, we shouldn't have ripped into the bathroom. Yeah, but we
Why is that drywall hanging? I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know. Yeah, exactly. So so that company, we started, and that grew into another company, and that I was a part of. That we imported some tubing and casing out of China, and then I started a national oil well agency so that I was buying the pipe valves and fittings off myself. And me and my partner at the time were having a heyday, and it was a relatively good time. Oil was at a record high. Things were going great. And my partner passed away at 36 from a massive heart attack, and
No, that's a
it
wake up
was
call.
it turned out to be a birth defect, in fact, and that he wasn't aware of. And I didn't have partner insurance or anything like that, and right at that time, oil crashed on us. So you go from quite a large set of companies and playing the wheel, if you will, for the most part, you know, and got slapped with reality check right quick. It's now you're talking, lawyers and things that aren't fun to deal with. And thankfully, his wife was extremely, professional in her own right. It wasn't a matter of anything like that, but you have to basically start over again is what it comes down
Yeah.
to. I had to sell off all the assets and essentially start over. And so that began my anxiety is what it's called. That was the start of realizing, like, you're not invisible, or invincible, and these things can happen to you. So yeah, oil crashed, and I was left with some more junk equipment at the end of it all, that I wanted. Let it be known. And I started another company at the time, and I'm unemployable, Max. I'm not the kind of person that can, show up to work
Do
at a
the punch
regular
card.
hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I've tattooed a good portion of my body. I used to call them job stoppers, to keep myself unemployable, so to keep me working for myself until you get in a position where you really wish you could just go get a job. And so I started another company straight up because I had a family to feed. And I took that old equipment and I refurbed it, and I rented another little shop with a little bit of shekels I had left, and And thankfully, I got a break from a company out in Saskatchewan that rented some of that equipment off me.
Nice.
And that company slowly grew over a time. We had a little bit of a bump again in surge in the oil field, which allowed me to build that company up. It quickly grew out of my control. It was where I had to bring in basically just a financial partnership. And I learned a lot of lessons through that, because that company went from just me to 12 employees in a year. And, unfortunately, I made a lot of mistakes through that. I trusted, and I'm not talking bad about anybody here, but, I trusted
It's the lesson. Yeah.
I just trusted, I used my heart instead of my mind. And, that was a big mistake in business. And so at the end of the day, that company I'll end up losing to my partner, and I was left in 2014, starting over again. And
it's not a unique story. It's the cautionary tale that I have to tell people all the time. I took on a partnership for, I think, my third business, and it was probably the one that for me that got the biggest. Big shop, beautiful, doing all the dream work. Took on a partner. 2 years later, everything's getting big. We're just moved to another bigger shop. We're hammering out bay doors, and and then I got bumped, man. Basically, I got bumped, and I was out, and I lost everything, and I walked away with nothing, and actually I lost my marriage in at the same time, because it's just so much stress. I became like, the stress turned me into a ugly person,
yeah.
and I had to do like a reset on my whole life. Like, it was like, you know what? I've been successful, but here I am without a house, a wife, a job, a company.
Yeah.
I'm living in a basement suite. Like, what the do I do? Right? That's the lessons, man.
And it's crazy, Max, that you just said that, because the yeah, same. So when that business first took off, I didn't have much left. I took the equity I had in my home, and I pulled it out to buy inventory, and and to do the little bit of refurbishment that I did, and I had some residual income coming in from those separator packages that were out on rental. But the banks won't work with a new company, and I get it. You don't have your ducks in line, and
It's a
but
lot of
that
risk.
opens up. Yeah. That opens up opportunity, though, for I got lazy, and I went to get funding from an easy source that turned out to be a wrong decision in my part. So yeah, man, I and full marks to him. I mean, card game well played, I guess. And so yeah, I started 2014. A marriage I essentially destroyed. I fully destroyed, and I walked into 2014. With no friend, little to no real friend group left. There's a lot of emotions that are attached to a divorce, and when you're going down, when the when the captain goes down,
no one wants to be down a sinking well.
Yeah, so it was a reality check time. So I spent the good part of the start of 2014. Well, the first month, was I spent drinking, basically, and then I incorporated a company. I had, my girlfriend at the time. Unfortunately, she seen something in me that no one else really did. There's a few people there, but thankfully she's very intelligent with numbers and companies, is what she does for a living. And she said, "Dan, your phone's been ringing off the hook for people wanting to support you. You need to do something." And I said, "I don't know what to do. I'm over it. I'm just gonna go get a truck. I'm gonna go get it. I got my class 1. I'm just gonna go get a job driving truck, and just leave me alone." And so she said, "That's not happening. You need to get your together here, and let's get going." So she literally sat me down, and we're in a house. at this moment in time. You know, I'm literally sitting on a Greg's milk crate, and I got a Rubbermaid container for a desk, and away we go.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, what do you want to name this company? I said, I don't know. Well, then we'll just leave it the number company. And I said, well, I don't leave it the number company because I'm never going to remember it. Numbers are in my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd lost a dog of mine who, well, I didn't lose him. You know, he just, it was a dog of mine at the time. His name was Bandit. So that's where Banditos Incorporated come from. And, you know, at the time when you're at lowest, the lows, Max, and you essentially, you know, you're feeling sorry for yourself. You don't see any sort of dream, any sort of light, you know, and you start thinking terrible thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that I had that light in my life to say, you know what, just try. And you know what? So I got this incorporated, and I immediately went to my friend Mike O'Brien, who's a fantastic airbrush artist, by the way. I said, Mike, I don't know if you've heard, but you know, I'm essentially on the streets here. I'm starting a new company over, and this is the name of it. I need a logo, and I need something to, you know, I needed something to look official here. So we went to work back and forth, and that's still, I saved that email because he sent me a number of renditions. He's got a busy schedule, but he knew it was important to get me my logo because it was that inspiration I needed to get to work, and we come up with what is the original Banditos logo. The B on my logo is actually from the original logo, as a nod to Michael. But the I went to work, man, and that first month, you know, the last half of that month, I knew I needed 10 grand. I needed 10 grand to pay my bills that I had coming up for that month, you know, mortgages, and now two mortgages, and so on and so forth. So I went to work, and we just started selling whatever people would buy. You know, I just phoned my contacts, you know, from drilling rigs to production guys to shop owners, and saying, you know, what do you need? And it was
Let me
pretty
find it
crazy
for
to me.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think my first sale was a hydraulic pump to a drilling rig, and so
Yeah.
nothing to do with what we're doing now. But
Yeah.
yeah, you know, at the end of the day, it's fun to reflect, I guess.
Yeah. Well, this is a great time to take a break here, you know, as we get to the current chapter in your life, and you know, and I think it's very important for people to understand this path that, you know, I see people come to me all the time, and you're like, hey, you know, you got, you know, these cool things that you do and these things that you do, and I like to sit them down and tell them about, you know, the like,
Yeah, man.
because it's important, and it's important to me because everyone's going to go through it, especially if you're ambitious and if you got that seed in you that you can't deny, that makes you want to do more. And not everyone has it, and whatever, everyone's different, but if you have it, you have it, and you can't
Correct.
shake it. You can't shake it, and it'll
Nope.
eat at you. Because if you're not doing something, you just feel like you're not even worth being a hole in the ground. Like you just have to act on it. It's like a compulsion.
Correct.
And
Yes,
it's really hard to let people know. They're like, oh, what's the secret to success? I have no idea, dude. I don't know. But you
correct.
just
Yeah.
you just wake up and you just don't take no for an answer, and you just give her, man, like whatever it is. Like,
Yes, sir. Yeah, and it's I just want to do good.
yeah, yeah. All right,
You
man.
know what?
Well, thanks for everyone that's been following along. This is a great conversation, great story. We'll be back right after these commercials from our sponsors here on the CWB Association podcast. Just hold on tight. We'll be back in like 2 minutes. And we are back here on the CWB Association podcast. I got Dan here from Banditos Incorporated, an online and in-person reseller that has, I believe, 3, possibly coming up on 4 locations. Is that correct? Yeah,
Yeah, you
out
know,
here in Western Canada.
yeah, you bet. Our third location is under renovations in Cranbrook right now. Our fourth location is going to be an e-commerce of some fashion. You know, I don't speak geek. I don't speak computer guy. So
Internet.
building a website, yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. So, you know, I found a company that is I'm comfortable with. They have the ability to talk up my level, and I'm pretty confident where our shekels are going. However, we want to get this location 3 up first. We do have 4 physical location pinpointed, but we're looking at 2025 before we're there.
All right, so let's go back to where we were. So you're coming up now. You hit that first month, came up with probably close to the 10. I probably didn't make the full 10, but you pay who you need to pay first, such is life. And then you said you're just moving whatever. So at what point does this start to formulate into a business plan of, because whatever only goes for a short period of time before it's like, okay, you need to figure out who your important clients are, who the good suppliers are, and what the connection is between the two of them that makes you special. Because there's a lot of other, donkeys out there carrying loads. What makes your load, better than anybody else's?
Yeah, that first month I did hit my goals.
Good.
And yeah, I did have an okay first year. I didn't have a shop yet. I was still, basically just doing it right off towards later in the year. I actually did have a kitchen table, and that's where I was working from. But what was amazing to me, Max, was the amount of support I got from vendors. Okay,
Yeah.
so when I had a number of vendors come to me and say, "Hey, listen, you know what? We're riding with you. We know what's what. We want to come with you, and we want to make this. We want to help support you do whatever." And so that's what I did, man. That's what I went out and sold. So I had a few really good customers along the way. Again, we're talking 2014. It wasn't a prosperous year. What a weird time to build a business and to to find blood out of some rocks. But the support was there, okay, and the support was there to allow me to take the next 2 years and build myself as a person. And I took a lot of time to analyze my mistakes and where a lot of them were coming from, and my shotgun approach to things wasn't always beneficial. There's a lot of good to that, but there's also a ton of terrible.
You create a lot of chaos.
Yeah, you know what, and that I'm still terrible at. I do create chaos. Yeah, and so, but now I'm surrounded by people that can control it. 2014 led to 2015. Basically, 2015 I spent pumping oil. I got a deal with a company called Klondike out of BC, and I set up a trailer and a 1-ton, and I drove out to a specific oil site, and I pumped oil compressor oil for all of their compressors, and it was enough to keep me going. I sold pipe valves and fittings to a number of guys, and and that's kind of what led me into, I'm sitting there going, and I know you've been there, Max, is what is my next move here? Like, what can I do that's going to not allow me to be tied to really anybody? What can diversify me? What can allow me to be liquid and have fun doing? And every one of these shops that I was going into was at the time was unhappy with their service on the welding supply side of things, and they wanted options. Okay, so
yeah,
they were tired of the same options that were there for the last 40 years. And this is not me putting words in people's mouths. This is the reason Banditos is here. And I said, okay, well, I'm talking to myself. What's going to set me apart? Like, rather than going in with cutting discs and whatever else, and it's the Lincolns and Hobarts and ESOBs of the world don't talk to one-man operations that want to sell their filler metals. So how am I going to get in here? I need a big brother of Essence that's going to help me be able to march down this road. So I found a company that had no representation in the area at the time. That was Lindy at the time, and they had a depot in town at one of the propane facilities where they just had a few cylinders available, and I bugged them, man. I didn't know nothing about their company outside of what I've read online, but I knew that they were they were number 3 out of the 3 big boys in the group, right? I've later learned that there's some really powerful private guys out there, but these guys packed some weight. And
Yep.
so they had some private ley line electrodes. They had some private ley line cutting discs. They give me what I needed to go into a customer and comfortably tell him that I could support his business.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did they have those, they also had access to everything else. The ESABs, the Lincolns, the Hobarts. They were able to sell that stuff. That's what those guys do, right? So they finally took a meeting with me. I had to call there. I started with once a week, and then it was twice a week, and then I finally got enough attention that I had a good conversation with one of the gentlemen on the phone there. That was a manager of sorts at the company, and he's like, I think you have what it takes for what we need in that area. Let me see if I can arrange a meeting, and he did that, and those guys come down, and I crushed it. I crushed the meeting, and I said, just give me a truckload of gas, and give me some credit to buy some. Give me a recommendation of what I need for welding supplies.
Yeah, like your standard list of what people usually buy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, Max, in 2016, I didn't know what 7018 meant. Okay, like I didn't, I all I could tell you is that I had customers that needed support in this industry, and I had a big big curve to learn here. So they gave me my first truckload of gas, and it made gas 7525, they're 92.8, they're acetylene, oxygen, whatever. And of course I go to some buddies first, right, and be like, hey, what does this look like to you guys? And they're like, well, the pricing is very strong. I think you're leaving some money on the table. And I just went, I think what I'm leaving on the table though is excess. I think I'm pricing it to the point where I can build my business off of this successfully, and it's something I can maintain. I think the market's overpriced, and so that's what I begin to find out is that it didn't take long before we had the attention of a number of the in Alberta, in Lethbridge particularly, there's 100 colonies that within an hour of Lethbridge.
Yeah.
And a good majority of those guys are heavy. They fabricate. They have the latest and greatest of everything, and their men are fantastic, right?
Yeah, they're like
this
all automated at CNCs, top-end equipment.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and really, quite honestly, that equipment is all Russian Chinese to me. It's just growing up as a farm guy and a small farmer, we used to do a lot of work with the colonies. And so I knew that working with them, if you're honest and you charge what you charge this colony, you charge the next colony, you would get the work. And so, that's what I did. I set out, and my pursuit was not, the big companies of the world. My focus was the farming community, and that's what I set out to do. And so, that first truckload of gas lasted me about 6-8 weeks, if memory serves me right. The next one probably took me about a month to go through, and I had an open house. I actually hired one of the colonies to come cook a pig at the shop.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and they so this is oddly enough, I went and rented some shop space. I actually rented some shop space to rewind back when I was hauling that oil. I needed somewhere to store totes of oil. But I was open for 1 week, Max, and my shop got broken into, and they stole everything.
My first shop, my first business I ever started got robbed, and everything got stolen, and I just gave up. I was like, nah.
Crazy thing about it was, they there was also a break-in on the west side of Lethbridge shortly after that, where a gentleman called the police, and because someone broke into his home, and so they get looking around, and he wouldn't let him into the garage. So then they got a warrant to go in his garage, where they found all my welding equipment. So the guy that stole all of my stuff, actually, his house got broken into, and then he called the cops because his house got broken into, and he had all my stuff. So I put the shekels forward to get a security system. But yeah, from that open house, we gained a few customers from that, and slowly built that up. And now, fast forward to 2022. Well, even in 2021, we I think we're up to 2 or 3, maybe even 4 truckloads of of consumables a week, and really all we get from Messer at this point is our gas. We've done a really good job at getting all the good guys.
The direct sourcing,
Yeah, it takes time to do that. I mean, 3M's not just going to walk in your door and be like, "Hey, how can we help you?" Like, they got to protect, and I can appreciate
they got
that.
to protect their brand.
Well, in the position I'm in now, I appreciate the fact that Joe Blow can't just go and fire up and buy at the same rate I can, being the amount of money that we put out now. But, it's frustrating, Max, when you're getting started, because it's just a rejection is enough to make you want to pack it in. But thankfully, like I said, I had that relationship early on. Lindy went through the buyout, which is now Messer, and
Lindy and
Praxair. Yeah. It's a whole whatever. So at the end of the day, our gases remain the same. We are Messer, but we turned out to be, at the time, like I said, out of 73 countries, we're their fastest growing agency in 73 countries, in the history of the company. So that was a nod to me. That when I got told that definitely fueled the fire.
Good. You brought up a couple of really good points that I want to circle back on that I think are important. First of all, the business strategy to kind of tailor some of your products or your outreach to the farming community and communities that you know. This is something that I think is actually really vital to the future of all businesses going forward in the world. I find that I think the 80s was the era of multinational, multi-conglomerate, massive organizations, the Pepsis and the Cokes and the Nikes of the world. This is when the Lincolns and the Millers and everything became just like the main brands. Now, in today's world, I don't think that that's the way the world's going to go forward. I think that, full circle globalization's out there, and now we're kind of back at the start where we are in a globalized market, but we also know that there's enough technology, enough education, enough people out there that everyone can kind of run their game and be competitive because lots of people do speak geek, and lots of people can build their own websites, and lots of people can do these things and get out there and help and make partnerships and stuff like that. When I got this job at the CWB, I was asked, one of the first things I got asked to do when I got hired was like, how do we get more involved with the welding community? And I was like, okay, well, how's about you stop giving all your money to the big companies? And everyone's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, let's start talking to the small companies in Canada. Let's not, I love Lincoln. Don't get me wrong. I love Miller. I love ITW. I love the Messers of the world, but they don't need me. They don't need me. If I drop off the planet, they're not going to be like, oh, where's Max? Max who, right? But if I can help Joe Blow's welding shop get a little bit of cheap advertising through the association, that for $100, or give me a helmet, I'll raffle your helmet off. I honestly don't even care. Work with me on some level. I'll try to work with you on some level, and then let's get the message out there that that I'm trying to connect with the people that are actually out there that have dreams, not have the dream, but are dreaming, right? And I think that when you said, you're working, that's a community, the farming, especially when you look at the Hutterites and the Mennonites and, like the those type of communities, there's a lot of people that will avoid them because they are strict. They are, they want things to be on the up and up and the T's crossed. They're very professional. And a lot of people don't want to deal with them. And I think that was a bold move on your end, and solidified you as you actually care. You actually are doing this for real. And, that's something that in business, I think going forward for all young business owners that are thinking about it, or you're in a business and you're growing, look around you, look at your local community, service them first, learn your lessons, and then scale up if you want to. That's on you. If you want to scale up, not everyone does. If you do, go for it. The second franchise, is always the hardest, but then the third one gets easier, and then you start to learn those lessons. It's number 2 that kills you though. But the you learn those lessons locally. If you try to get global, you try to get too big too fast, man, you're done. That's just really tough.
100%. And you brought up a good point that I probably neglected to say, I've surrounded myself with good people, and what I deem to be the best people. I built this company with, like I mentioned before, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, Lindsay. She's incredible at numbers, and she speaks lawyer, she speaks banker. She worked for a gentleman that very, very successful. She was his CFO for 7 years before we moved up to Kimberley, and she come on full time with us. And the lessons that he taught her and me on just, I would guess he's getting close to 80. So he's got nothing to prove anymore. He was very open book for me, and I think my humility is probably my strongest point. It identifies to me the people that I don't want around me real quick. If people can't digest failure and mistakes, and I've drank too much in my past, and I've done some dumb stuff. Okay, well, carry on. And I am so proud of the team that I'm around, but I would not be 2% the size that I am, and it not be my wife protecting those shekels, because I had the liberty of, I didn't take a paycheck out of this company until 2018, outside of paying alimony and child support. We lived off of my wife, and I was a starving artist, if you will. And I attach a lot of emotion to this business, but Max, in 2020, I didn't have, previous to COVID, I had no interest in being any bigger than what we were. I mean, quite honestly, like I said, I'm an anxious dude. I don't like to be in meetings. I don't like to have to put on a suit. I don't like any of that kind of. I just want to sit across the table from a guy, smash some nachos and discuss what the future holds for our companies. And that's what I'm used to. I mean, that's a farmer / oil field kid. And so 2020, though, I mean, sheesh, it highlighted some big. These guys are making mistakes, and I said to Lynn, like, I can't not pursue this. Like, I can't. And so what do you do during COVID? When you're stuck in your residence, and you can't really go anywhere. We started renovating our house. We started doing some yard work and stuff. So I did some yard work in my place, and a good friend of mine popped by. We had worked together for 20 years, associated companies, in the oil field type thing. And just always one of those guys, you didn't have to see for 6-8 months, and you run into him, and nothing's changed, everything's great, and you carry on with conversation. He popped by to see the yard, from a good safe distance. He stayed on the other side of the chain link for a while, and I was sitting on my deck, having a drink, and I said, you know what, Craig, I think there's opportunity for us here right now, because he had a business that was selling ball valves, and I said, I think there's an opportunity here for us to that conversation went on for probably 45 minutes before I convinced him to come up on the deck and sit for a visit. And fast forward to now, that's my business partner. We formed a relationship on that day. We started off, we just wanted to share space together, and he's now the vice president of Banditos Incorporated, and he's that rock that I needed. He was that old soul that I could trust. I could leave Alberta behind and know it's in good hands to come out here and push the Kootenays. And he was in agreement that the COVID slowed the big boys down. It wasn't allowing their sales staff to go out and do demos,
and not nimble enough to make the transitions that they need to make.
We're trying right now, Max. We're trying to do some business changes, some business modifications in our accounting system, and how we inventory things, and how our shipping receiving's done, and it's painful, man. We're talking 2.5 stores, and it's painful. So I can't imagine being a big boy and
30,000 locations.
Yeah, like, no, we're not changing for nothing. And so I appreciated Ackland's closing some locations because it opened up some opportunities for us. And so we went from selling just welding supplies in 2020, and now we're full pipe valves and fittings. We're supporting pipeline projects. We're supporting massive food plant expansions. It shut down one of the biggest pipe valves and fitting supplier in well, really from Red Deer South, I think. And one of their guys become available, and Max, I'm telling you, this guy's the Wayne Gretzky of pipe valves and fittings, and to boot, he's an awesome guy. So, we approached him and said, "Hey, Chris, you want to come on board with us?" And he's like, "Absolutely," and with that being said, in Tabor, or I mean in Lethbridge, previous to COVID, I had my best friend come to work for us. He's a bit of a mentor of mine as well. He's 10 years older than me, but he's just a cool cucumber. Randall come on board, and he's the manager of our location. We brought on some general manager from another fastener location I used to play hockey with when I was 15 years old. Another gentleman that's extremely relatable. We're cut from the exact same cloth. He come from Clovis is his name. He come from a larger independent. So 15 years of basically all things pipe, valves and fittings, to hoses, to safety equipment, to welding supplies. So we come with some horsepower now, and we're wide, we're real wide when it comes to vendors. So if we don't get you with the gas, Max, we're going to get you with the abrasives, and if we don't get you with the abrasives, we're going to get you something else, and it's fun. And none of my staff are chasing a profit margin. Quite honestly, and this is no BS. Our only focus is to have happy customers, because if we have happy customers, the money follows. And you get awarded some projects without all of the work, and it's become a lot less stressful when you're not chasing a 25% profit margin, or you're not or a 30, whatever that profit margin is. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because if you don't got a customer, it's zero. So
correct. Yeah, exactly.
Now, you brought up COVID and the big suppliers and some of the issues they had, and I find that very interesting, because I saw the big companies each kind of take a different angle, and I would say that maybe none of them was overly successful in the way they approached it. Right. Ackland's tried to go eBay. They tried to go to the Amazon format.
Sure.
We'll just do giant warehouses. You do everything online. You just show up at the location when it says it's going to be, and they expanded their catalog to like 60,000 items, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then you try to use their website, nothing's in stock, and the only thing that you can get is going to show up in 9 months. Right. Fail. It was a huge fail. Like the website's still up and you can still use it, but I mean, it largely alienated most of their clientele.
In blue collarville, it was, I mean, you'd call it what you want to call it. It was before their time, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it didn't work.
No,
and it didn't. It not only did it piss off their customers, it pissed off their vendors, and which was great for me, because I landed up with some awesome product lines because of it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I go right now. Like, I mean, I think the other day I was just like, I'll check it out, because I still have my business. I still run it out of my garage, even though I scaled it all back. But I can pick up projects when I want, right? And I still have all my accounts open, so I'll be like, let's see if I can get this, blah blah blah. A 4-foot 1/8 piano hinge. Like I like buying the piano hinges in bulk so I can cut them. And it's like, well, here they are, $80 a piece. Oh, that's a pretty good price. Okay, blah blah blah. 3 in the basket. Buy. Expected delivery time 6 to 8 months. What?
Yeah.
Then take it off your website. Like, I mean, no, dude, that's not how that works. Like,
and that goes back to the conversation on the e-commerce. There's so many layer cakes to those e-commerce, like on trying to figure it out, because that's the last thing I want is a guy like yourself being like, Dan, why'd you let me get to the point where I was putting it in my cart, man? I was excited about it.
Yeah, just tell me it's not there and I'll live. Like I'll live.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm not,
exactly.
and I should say I'm not bashing Acklands. Like I mean,
No,
they do
no,
what they got to do, right? It's just like there was experiments that happen within any business that sometimes are a struggle. And the Lindy Messer Praxair takeover over the last couple of years, the switching, you know, like Lindy's a huge supporter for, and so is Praxair to the CWB Association. They give us prizes and they support schools across the country, but it's confusing. It's confusing to the people out there when these things are going. And I understand that, hey, like, I mean, they just had to. Like, I mean, COVID just forced these large companies into positions because maybe one was better with sales and POs and AR, and the other one was better with locations, and you just combine them. But to your point, it really opened up the floor for some smaller businesses to be like, you know what, I can adjust tomorrow if I need to make a change. And if you need something, I can just pick up the phone and find it. It's not like I got 6 million people waiting on me. I can do this, right?
Yeah, man. And it's, you know, we're more nimbly, you know, there's a lot less fat to move around. And so the, it helps us be, not only are we transparent, but we're very flexible in what we're willing to do. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no secret sauce to that recipe. Okay. It's just phone rings, customer asks you for something, you say yes, and then you go find it. And, you know, a lot of times even, you know, you look at the Milwaukee type stuff that we offer, and I encourage people, I'm like, you know, we're not always going to be the cheapest. You need to know that. Like, you need to shop your deals still. Like, you know, I don't know what Home Depot's got on special, or I don't know what's going on over here. I can't keep track of all of that.
Yeah, and you're not buying pallets at a time just because, right?
No, yeah, we're gonna compete day to day, every day. But you know what? We're gonna put stuff on our shelf. You know, we're gonna put more inventory that's relatable to our customers. We're not always gonna have everything a new customer wants right away, but we're gonna get it. And you know, and to make you feel better about Acklands, they're not losing any sleep. I mean, Granger is the second largest e-commerce in the world, second to only Amazon. And you know, there were billions of dollars. Sure, they make moves that I don't understand, but I'll tell you what, it's allowed me to build a business, you know, and you know, become an intimidating force in the blue collar world. Like, we love the competition. We like the friendlies, but you know what, I'm not. We don't feel like we're being bullied anymore, like I used to feel like, you know, back in the day, to the bigger companies.
Yeah, you just didn't have a choice. And, you know, back to your Wayne Gretzky comment, I had someone tell me, you know, Wayne Gretzky might have been the best player that ever lived, but he didn't win every game, you know, and it's like, that's the way it goes, man. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So now what's in the cards, you know, because there's only so much you can take. I learned that lesson the hard way. And everyone's got a line, you know, everyone's got a line. Like everyone makes fun of Jeff Bezos for running $1 billion, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you, you drop me or you in that seat and I'd crumble in 8 seconds at the decisions he has to make. You know, some people are just built different. Where do you see yourself? You know, you're 2.5 plus an e-commerce coming down the road. You know, do you see yourself just staying in the West and being like a Western supplier? Are you looking maybe someday make the push national or even US, which is a whole nother beast? You know, what do you kind of think is your plan?
You know, without freaking everybody out that works for us, you know, we so I'll give you.
We're actually called Banditos and Chuck E. Cheese now.
Yeah, yeah, no. So we when I forecasted 2021's numbers, well, 2020, you know, was a good year for us. We doubled in size, and when I forecasted 2021 numbers, my wife said, "You can't forecast numbers like that. They're not believable. The bank won't believe them." And you know, we did 20% over that when we closed out 2021. And so, and when I forecasted 2022 numbers, everybody went, "That's it." And it was, and I said, "Well, our system is peaked. We can't push this thing anymore. You know, this Pinto can't drive any faster." So right now, Max, we got to focus in the business stuff before I can tell you expansion plans, because if I can't get this fixed in a timely manner, that's going to push some goal dates, you know, and we definitely want to. I don't really have a ton of interest crossing over to the western part of the Kootenays. The guys that are over there, man, are doing a great job, and I don't need to meddle in their stuff. You may see us out east. I think there's lots of opportunities that way. Talking about Saskatchewan, I mean, and Manitoba's got it covered, man. Innovair is
They're
fantastic. They're a fantastic independent, and again, I'm not looking to scrap a bigger bear. At the end of the day, there's more than enough work right where we're at. We don't do it perfect as it is, so let's get good at what we're doing right now. I'm not in a hurry to load up my bank account by any stretch of the imagination. All I want to do is surround myself with good vendors that want to work with us. We just signed up Fronius, which I'm super jacked up about.
Nice.
So there's some training that goes along with that, and Matt out east, way out east there at Canadian Wellness Plus,
Yeah.
he's knocking out of the park. I don't.
No, he's a good friend of mine. We'll party together at Fabtech.
Yeah, there's no. I'm not looking to pick fights. Is what I'm getting at. If I'm going to pick a fight, it's going to be at a big company. I'm going to
take the pieces that you can take. Yeah.
I'm just going to target their customers that I think they're doing sloppy job at. I mean, we have the best vending system period going. No one can compete with us on that end of it. I'm confident in our auto cribs, and I think that we need to focus in on what we're doing right now, Max. And quite honestly, we got to get 5-star across the board. We're doing this to be happy. I've started over twice, Max. I'm not doing it again.
Well, don't say that. You never know, but let's hope not.
I don't want to get a mile wide and an inch deep here. I think we have the right people in place to manage the size of ship we have right now, and the size of us is to be determined.
Yeah, and it's good, because you do want to maintain that every strut on the way up has to be strong, right? Like, I mean, one weak strut and the shell comes down.
Yeah, man. Like I still run a good majority of our deliveries. I drive a 1-ton. I pull a gooseneck trailer around. I'm not out enjoying life to its fullest just yet. That being said, I do have a 5-month-old baby at home, so he's going to keep me grounded for a while. So the long and the short of it, Max, I'm hoping we can do this again sometime. I'm looking forward to Fabtech and as the growth of this company goes on, I'm excited to report it back to you.
So, let's talk a little bit about Fabtech. For a young company, and I know a lot of people out there that listen to the podcast, dream about going to a Fabtech or getting to know what it's like. And I 100% let them know that you should in your life as a contractor or a tradesperson, even if it's not welding related, get out to whatever conferences for your industry. They're always very good for you. And I mean, we host Canada Fabtech here with CanWeld. What's your goal of Fabtech? Are you going down there? Do you guys got a booth? Do you guys are you guys going to be presenting? Are you walking the show? What's the purpose that you're looking to get out of Fabtech? Because I think it's everyone's got a different angle, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been excited about Fabtech since I got into this ruckus, and being the manpower previous to 2020, I didn't have the opportunity to get away and see it, right? I was very much in on whatever the business. And then of course through 2020 it just wasn't there, and this is my first real opportunity to get out there. I feel it's an obligation to my staff and to my customers to see what is out there.
Yeah,
I'm coming to learn. I'm not setting any meetings as far as like sit down meetings with people. I'm very much in tune with my vendors. Currently, I'm not looking to add a ton of weight to our offerings at the moment. So I'm really just going down, looking for a 1,000-foot view of what the industry has to offer, meet some guys like yourself, and maybe some of the people out east that like, Matt, that I haven't met before, and just check it out. Chicago, I think it'll be a different story. We'll be we'll be marching in there with stormtroopers and looking to take over the place. But no, yeah, this first time around, my wife and myself are going, and just we want to have a good screenshot, I guess, if you will, of what's available in the market. I really want Lindsay to come along to kind of get the excitement of the industry. She's just looking at numbers all day long, and she doesn't really get the thrill of the sale. She gets the she gets to pay the bills and chase the money. So this will
Well,
be a
there's
fun
lots
experience
of
for
fun
us.
stuff. Yeah, like the President's Gala that they do with AWS on the Monday. You know, it's a 5-star event. It's really cool. But then the Hard Rock Cafe with Blue Demon, you know, those are always a blast. Arcs and Ales, don't forget to sign up for that. That's a good time. That's on the Wednesday. And then like we're there every day. We're doing podcasts there. We have a
Oh,
podcast room
sweet.
where we're going to be recording, I think, 8 podcasts while we're there. And then we were trying to set up a big like group podcast, but I think it kind of fell through today. It's just there's like 30,000 people there trying to book a room to
Right.
like, it was like, yeah, well, yeah, we can give you a room for 4 hours. It's only 16 grand. It's like, maybe not, you know, like,
Yeah.
so,
I'm excited to meet Brian from Blue Demon. I'm thrilled to have his products on the shelf. I think that guy gets it.
we're interviewing him. He's one of our podcast interviews that we got booked.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
He's been so approachable to everything.
He's a cool dude, you know.
Yeah, and he's been nothing but 5-star. You know, and that's the kind of people that make this job super fun for me. And like I said, I promised to sit down and have a couple of Chardonnays with him, and yeah, we'll see what it shakes out, man.
Awesome. And then in terms of just, you know, your personal life, what's shaking now? You got other businesses going on? You got any other weird little hustles going on? I'm just curious because I know that I'm usually not satisfied just doing one thing. And you gardening. What are the hobbies? What do you do?
Well, we sold our we had a boat, we had a lake lot out in Alberta, and then we moved out here. There wasn't much point in having that anymore. So when we sold our little boat, I said to Lynn what she wanted, and she wanted a plug and play hot tub. And so I said, okay, well, I want an e-bike. So she got her plug and play hot tub from Costco, and I ordered my e-bike off the web in June, and I still don't got it. So eventually I'm going to start mountain biking out here on an e-bike. Yeah, you know, I spend a tremendous amount of time still, like I said, those 2 scares that I've had in my past have taught me that if I have some free time, I like to educate myself on things. I come into this industry not knowing anything about, you know, I owned a fab shop that had welders and stuff like that, and we refurbed equipment and that sort of thing, but it's not on the level of anything to what is out there now. And so I'm very much still learning the industry. And so I watch a ton of YouTube. I watch a lot of TikTok. I'm very much an open book. I'm very honest to people that I don't know, how to weld particularly well. You know, I'm a farm kid, so I could stick weld. I mean, I can goober some stuff together. But at the end of the day, you know, Mitch Hedberg, he was a comedian that I loved. He passed away a number of years ago, but he was talking about one of his stand-up things where he had a guy come to him and say, you know, you're real funny. You should write a sitcom. And he said that was a little bit like asking like a chef that's really good at cooking vegetables if you can farm. You know, he's like, I can do this.
Yeah.
But I can't do all of that. And so, you know, I'll let the technicians, the tradesmen focus on what they focus on. I'll go out and scour the internet in Europe, North America, and wherever else
You do your
for the
deal.
latest and greatest of stuff, and I'll bring it to you, and you know, you put it to work, and you tell me how it is, and I'll pass it along to the other guys, and at the end of the day, I'm just trying to make my mortgage payments just like every other guy out there, man.
Yeah, you know, that's a very valid point. Knowing where you lack and where you want others to support, because it takes a village, man. It really takes a village to make anything run. And like, I mean, my staff, you know, as I expanded in the CWB and higher, and even companies I've had, it's like people ask, you know, well, do you wish you had a clone of you? No, not at all. I don't want a clone of me. That's the last thing I need. I need someone who's the opposite of me, basically, to do all the things that I'm not good at. 'Cause, like, I'm not great with numbers. I'm not great with business proposals and plans. I'm a vision guy. I'm an idea guy. I love supporting
100%.
ideas and getting ideas going. And I can prop other people up really well. But really, it's not me. It's the people around me that I bring in to be my team, that I help them do their job, right? Like,
Yeah, totally. And I obviously I listen to a lot of those guys like the Gary V's of the world that talk and you know, those alpha multi-millionaire dudes that, you know, that have been there, man. This guy come from the of NYC, and he is very good at spotting opportunity. And I don't remember who said this, but you know, that's how intelligent I am. But I got the point, because he said, you know, I better be the dumbest man in the room. You know, when I'm looking, if I'm standing in a room full of my employees that are running my company, I hope I'm the dumbest man in the room, because that means I have the right people surrounding me. And no, I'm not saying that I'm the dumbest guy in the room by any stretch, but you know, I am super proud of my team. It's an honor to have everybody that I have there. We have some really exciting young blood coming up in the company. My son Vinny, after he spent the summer out here in Cranbrook working for a company by the name of Fabrate that has a number of different trades in it, and they gave him the opportunity to kind of pick his trade, what he liked, and he really liked. He likes to pull wrenches as well, so he really liked.
Millwright or heavy duty mechanic.
Yeah, you know, and he also loves to weld, so he liked millwright. And I said to him, sitting on the deck here, I said, you know, what's going to light your soul on fire, you know, for the next couple of years? I said, because it's not easy. 18 to 25 she's a grind. Like, just everybody thinks you should know what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm telling you, Vinny, as a guy that was that age, that made, you know, multiple mistakes that I could have been avoided had I just taken a breath and just taken my time. What is going to light your soul on fire, man? Like, what's going to get your out of bed in the morning? What's going to stop you from going out for Wing Wednesday and not showing up for work on Thursday? What is that? And I said, I want you to think about that and come back to me with your answer. And he come back and he said, you know what, Pops, I think I want you to mentor me for a couple of years, and I just want to learn what business is about. Maybe I want to be an entrepreneur. And I said, sweet. You know, let's do it. So I give him a job offer. He's going to start in February for us out here.
Awesome.
And you know, he'll put some shekels in his bank account, but you know what he'll learn, Max, is he'll learn, you know, in this industry, you know, what he really wants to do, right? And what to avoid and who to avoid and
what he likes and what he doesn't like. Yeah.
Correct. You know, he could go 2 years or 3 years into a millwright trade and realize that, you know, he should have been a pilot. And that's
fine too. That's fine, because that education he got for those 3 years, he'll have for the rest of his life, and he'll be that pilot that can fix the plane.
Oh, I have a number of friends that have degrees that mean nothing to what they do now, and so you know, let's just go out there and have some fun.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Awesome, man. Well, this has been a great interview. This has been super fun and super informative. Give a quick shout out to your locations and where people can find you.
Our head office, our world headquarters, as we like to call it, is in Lethbridge. You know, you can find us there for sure. And then in Tabor, we have our second location. And then again, in Cranbrook. And you know, if you ever have any trouble finding us, you just look us up at banditosinc.com or check us out on the socials. Same thing, you know, at Banditos Inc. And you know, Craig, my partner, runs the socials. He does a fantastic job. He's usually really quick at getting back to you. And again, thank you for the support, Max. I appreciate this very much. It was good to talk out my past and future goals here, and I'm interested to hear you know, more of your podcast. I think you do a fantastic job.
Well, thanks a lot, Dan. I appreciate it. And you know, for the people that are following along, you know, make sure you check out the website, and you know, if you're going to be down at Fabtech, make sure you find him and shake his hand and give him a little introduction to the area and what your companies are doing, because it's all about networking, and that's something that's really so important in this community.
I appreciate that.
The last thing I want to say to all the people that have been listening, we're coming up to our 100th episode. So, you know, make sure you stay tuned to the socials as well, because we're going to be giving away a bunch of gear that's been donated to us by a number actually of the companies that we've been talking about here. You know, the CWSs and the Innovair, and, you know, these supporters of us that we, like I said, my mission now is to try to connect us to local, smaller, independent companies and give them the space on, you know, through our large group of companies, which is the CWB. So, you know, it's staying tuned, and hopefully, you know, maybe Banditos down the road. You know, my sales manager will probably like me saying this, but hopefully you'll get to come on board here and help us out too. So
absolutely. Send me the info.
All right, Dan. And, yeah, you bet, man. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the show.